I guess I got to introduce myself, right? I mean, is everyone doing that? For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kerry Marti. I'm with PDS, primarily responsible for endpoints and endpoint management, PC stuff, all that boring stuff, asset management, lifecycle management. And I'm very happy to be talking to you today, and I'm sorry I don't have any magic tricks. But hopefully we'll make it worth your while. And just so everybody knows, I'm a different type of speaker. I'm not a technologist. I do work in IT, although anytime someone, a friend or family needs help, I let them know. I know absolutely nothing about technology, which is why I make the perfect person to talk to you guys. I am your ultimate end user, okay? And I wanted to actually talk to you from a different perspective today. And really just kind of, it's more motivation, I think, than education. But to give you some stuff to think about, overall as it relates to productivity and why IT exists and, quite frankly, why all of us have jobs. So first of all, I have a little IT success story that I want to play. It's a very quick video clip.
A physician tell me about 6 months ago, said, finally you're doing something for me instead of to me. And that's probably the best compliment you can get about an IT project,
Ed, you're not here in the room today, are you? Not Ed from Beaufort? I didn't see him on the list, so. Anyone from VMware in here? No? Okay, I just want to make sure I wouldn't take the risk of offending anyone from either one of those organizations. But now you guys are asking me, well, what was the project? What did they do? I want to hear how this physician said, finally you're doing something for me instead of to me. What's funny is that I was looking for stories, IT success stories, of things that really helped improve workflow, really helped improve the business. And I found this, and it's not the success story that I'm interested in. It's what Ed says here, which is the best compliment you can get on an IT project. Now, I know, we technology people, sometimes we have a different language that we speak than other people, but I have a little clue. Finally, you're doing something for me instead of to me is kind of like saying, thanks for not being a pain in my ass today. And that's not a compliment. And just if you want to test it out, after the conference, go home to your wife or husband or significant other and say, you look really good today for once. So in speaking with IT people and talking about language, I thought I would start with some IT language, okay? I know there's a big, long title for my whole session in the thing, which I can't even remember, something about increasing productivity and lifecycle management and stuff like that. But what I really want to talk to you about is, come on, Delta F, change your focus, okay? Everything I want to talk to you about today is about changing your focus as IT people in your organization. A lot of you who have been with PDS for a while are going to recognize a similar theme to this message. It's not all that different from get out of IT. But you know what? It's an important theme and one that needs to be repeated and repeated and repeated because so often we get stuck in our day-to-day jobs and we forget the importance of it. So I'm going to go through some history, both in the history of the United States and the history of IT. And I'm going to do my best. I have no idea how long I'm going to take, and I'm going to try to shorten it up because I don't practice these things and run through them and time myself. I'm going to try to be a little quicker. 1998, it was such a much simpler time, okay? There was no Ebola, no ISIS that we had to worry about. The only political problem we had is trying to figure out what the word is meant, okay? And IT, look at how happy this IT guy is back here. We all had jobs. Everybody in IT, you didn't have to worry about it, right? And the only thing that, only real problem we had was trying to figure out if our software had the right number of spaces for the year, right? In 1998, I was talking with a customer or a prospect, and just a little of my own history, and they said, well, what do you do? I'm like, well, me and my team, we configure and deliver and install PCs. And he said, well, you're out of a job. Okay, why is that? Well, when this thing Citrix catches on, you're never going to sell another PC again. I'm like, really? Well, what's that? He's like, well, I mean, you can run all the applications you want. Everything runs in the back-end infrastructure, and you don't need PC? I'm like, well, what do people work on? And he's like, well, they work on like a thin client. I'm like, well, what's that? He said, well, it's like a PC. I'm like, well, I guess I'll configure and deliver and install those things then. 2004, Saddam Hussein's put on trial for crimes against the Iraqi people. This seemed like it was just yesterday to me, whereas the conversation that I was having with the engineer that this slide is based upon seems like it was so long ago. I was talking actually with one of our engineers and a big Microsoft guy talking about MDT, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, and going, man, when we get this zero-touch deployment down, this is going to be so awesome. You'll never have to deploy PC again. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, all the operating system comes down, and based upon user role, all the apps they come down, and you can load it right onto bare metal. And I'm like, how do you get the hardware there? And he's like, well, of course you got to deliver the hardware. And I just found it funny how that's just such an afterthought. I think it was his ultimate goal. And Josh, you're not in here, are you? Yeah. I think it was his ultimate goal to be like, well, just send the stuff to the end user, let them plug it in. 2006, Google buys YouTube. And even after all this time, I am still absolutely amazed that two things that I love so much and get for free can make so much damn money. So at that time, actually, that's when VDI became the buzzword. What was VDI? Oh, well, that was kind of like Citrix 2.0. Well, actually, but we can take all of this stuff that is your traditional desktop and we can run it back in the data center, and then you can run everything on a thin client again. That's going to be awesome. It'll be completely, we'll never actually have to go out and put anything on the desk again. We'll never have to see that end user. 2009, historic moment in the US. Barack Obama is inaugurated as president. At that time, application virtualization was really making its rounds. It's really cool. You can take any application, you kind of put it in this little pod sort of thingy that I don't understand, and you can deliver it to absolutely any device that's out there, and it's going to make everything so awesome. 2011, things were really looking good, okay? Osama bin Laden, we finally got him, and cloud computing was really, really coming into the business. Now you take this, with software as a service and all those things that you can do, and suddenly we are approaching IT nirvana, where we never, ever, ever have to go talk to another end user again. These are IT trends, okay? And I see, I find some amusement in them because as we talk about the cloud and things that we're going to be able to do with that, I picture an IT guy sitting, now I got everything running back there. Everything's the way I want it. Now I can just be in my office and no one will bother me. And then, now that I got all this time on my hands in my office, I can do this big data stuff. This is going to be really cool. I am going to be so productive. I'm going to be running all this analytics, and we're really going to turn this into some cool stuff. And then, we're going to have the Internet of Things, where absolutely everything is wired. Now I don't even have to be in my office. I can be at home. I'm going to run my IT infrastructure with one hand, and I can still play World of Warcraft with my other. I find it funny that, as IT people, our ultimate goal, it seems to be, is to be able to, I saw a commercial one time, I don't remember if this was CDW or IBM, but there was an IT person, their feet were up on up on the desk, and it's like, well, everything runs. It's great now. This is my job. What about end users? Well, they can bring their own device. That'll be so great for them. They can go to Best Buy and they can pick out anything that they want, with all the stuff that they want and all the bells and whistles and things like that. Remember how I told you guys I'm the ultimate end user? I hate shopping. I hate going to Best Buy. So if you're basing, your ultimate end user experience upon the things that you like, again, it might be something you want to shift your focus. I never want to go buy my own device. I never want to have to try to figure out how to attach the infrastructure. I had a hard time buying my little Apple iPad that when I finally wanted to get one. I didn't like even going to the Apple store to do it, and they're like, well, just do this, and how do you set up your email? I'm like, I don't know. And so this, BYOD, come on, let's be real. It's been around for a while. I mean, insurance companies have been doing it forever, with their agent models. So the next IT thing isn't necessarily the thing that's going to take you to nirvana, which is this fictional place where we never have to worry about end users again. So, yeah, I ask, WTF, where's the focus? What is technology for? Technology is to enhance productivity. Enhancing productivity of your business is where your business gets done. Where your business gets done is with your end users and with the people on the floor and the feet on the street. We can't stop thinking about that. Too often, as IT people, we get stuck focused on one department. We think about ourselves. What can we do to decrease capital costs? What can we do to decrease our operational costs? We end up spending a lot of time thinking about, if I could just save a half an hour or an hour per week for each one of my desktop guys, boy, that would be great. Maybe I could save a whole day. I got to tell you something. You have fewer desktop guys out there than there are nurses out in your healthcare facility. For every day that you could save of time for your desktop guys, if you save a couple of minutes per nurse, we're not talking about thousands of dollars of savings. We're talking about millions of dollars. It is all about the workflow. It's also not about the technology. Again, as IT people, our main focus always is, oh, okay, cool, technology. We got to remember that technology is made for human beings, okay? A lot of times as technologists, the first knee-jerk reaction that we have, and I do this too, I mean, even though I say I'm not a technologist, I do like technology. The first thing we do is go, hey, look at that cool new thing. I wonder how I could use that, okay? As opposed to looking at it from the other direction. One of my heroes, Thomas Edison, he's got a lot of great quotes, by the way. You can spend hours just reading up on his stuff. This is kind of a shortened, abbreviated version, but basically he said, I never invented anything for the sake of inventing things. I go out and I look and find the human need, and then I go ahead and try to invent something to fix that. So the whole concept there is to actually be looking for what the problems people are having and then using your knowledge of technology to do that. You need to be entrepreneurial, not technological, okay? This is more of the same thing here, okay? You don't go and invent a technology for technology's sake. I think I can do this with this sort of technology and then just go ahead and do it. The better thing is to truly understand what is it that needs to be invented and then work on it from that standpoint. It's also more about anthropology than technology. Human behavior, we were having a short conversation while people were filing in about human behavior, but ultimately that's what needs to drive what we're thinking about. The way we work, our workflow, everything like that is based upon our human need. My mother was a nurse. She was an RN for 35 years. And she was driven out of nursing by computers, okay, by Meditech. Now, this is no slam against Meditech or Epic or McKesson or rattle them off people for me. In the end, it would be very easy for us as technologists to say, oh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And don't anyone tell my mother I said that either. But the reality of it is she was a very good nurse, and she knew the way she wanted to be able to operate, and she couldn't operate the way she was being dictated to operate. And this kind of goes back to the physician statement earlier, doing something to me, okay? And when we think about human behavior and the way things need to run, this actually came up at dinner last night. We were talking about healthcare and technology, and I'm sorry I'm using a lot of healthcare focus, you guys, but that's kind of where my mind's at. And one of our sales reps said, I was reading something about how now in medical school that, all these physicians now, there's all these classes on how to work with technology. There's John right there. And you know what I thought about later? I don't want my physician taking technology classes. I want him taking classes to figure out about infectious diseases and stuff like that. In the end, if we have to teach people and provide these huge, big, massive, instructions on how to use the technology, then we're not doing a very good job as technologists on making it intuitive and making something that's easy to work with and easy to put into the workflow. So how do we get started? Okay, I got to have some little things for everybody to think about and work on. I'll tell you, this isn't rocket science. This is where it kind of gets a little boring, and you're going, oh my God, he's going to talk about asset management and lifecycle management and IT process and stuff like that. I am, okay? But it does start with something that I think that we all need to do, and we need to take standardization, if you will, to the next level. We can go into any organization and say, do you have standards? Absolutely. Yep, we got this for desktop, this for laptop. Actually, we got 3 models of laptop. We got this for tablet, and so on and so forth. But it's not about the standards, okay? You truly have to understand what role the device fill, okay? Well, we always talk about user roles. That's easy to understand. Users, they need these applications, they need these access to information, and so on and so forth. But devices have very specific particular roles as well, which is why every organization is just not 100% thin clients with people sitting at desks working on them. You need something that works in a workstation on wheels capacity. You need something that has this different type of battery capacity. Maybe you need something with a touchscreen. You need something with this. You need something with that. Although we often identify that this device fits into this workflow, we rarely identify the specific needs about that device that make it appropriate for that workflow. At one point, someone thought about that, but very rarely is that specific thing documented and included. What are the critical specifications that make it important for that workflow? Not for the OS that you're running, not for maybe this particular application, but for that individual workflow. Why is that device right in that area? What are the accessories that are needed for that type of device? Okay, and why are those things chosen? How are they used by the end user in their particular tasks? And is there anything about those accessories that are important than a different one that was chosen? What are the lifecycle considerations? Here you got a device that's being used in one way, it's just an iPad, and then it used in a completely different way here. I can guarantee you that you're going to have a different lifecycle need for a device that's put on a forklift, okay, than one that is being used by a sales rep out on the road. Now, it might be that because this is just running one app, actually, and because it's locked in there and protected, that'll run for 3 years. And your sales rep, because we know they're all so high maintenance, that they're going to want a new device every single year, and it's got to be the latest and greatest. That's your life cycle there. Or maybe this does take some abuse. John here never washes his hands after dealing with greasy parts, and that gets into that stuff, and it doesn't work very well. Those are the types of things that are going to be important about every single type of device, and why life cycle and life cycle planning is so important, knowing it down to the device level and the device role. Second, okay, it's not just enough to have standards anymore. You need to be expanding the IT products catalog. John? Mary Ann isn't here from Fairview, is she? No. Okay. Jeff's over here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay. All right. I just have an interesting story related to our discussions when we're kind of going through this similar stuff here, Jeff. And we were talking about aligning devices with workflow. And, I have to say, this is nothing against Marianne. It's more about the mindset of IT people, right? Where we start talking about aligning specific devices. And her statement was, gosh, we worked so hard to, we used to have all these different types of models and stuff like that all over. And we worked so hard to get it down to just one model that works for everybody. You're not going to come in and force us to change that, are you? And put things out there. And then she said something that, struck me, that she said, we just don't have the time to go out and ask our end users what they need to help them do their jobs better. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I don't know if you remember that statement. And that's the stuff that I'm talking about, that is about where we've been focusing our energies. It crystallized it really for me because, you know what? I am not an expert on healthcare workflow. I know a little bit about managing devices and about managing life cycles and about doing all this stuff, but no one is better suited than you guys to be working with those individual clinicians and business units and figuring out what things you can install or utilize or change or make that can have just the slightest bit of difference that can, when you compound it over all of those users, have a huge amount of payback. This stock footage, we don't need that. You got to optimize your asset management systems, okay? I go into numerous organizations. I ask them, how many applications do you guys utilize in your business? Around 900, around 1,200, around 500. I've never had anyone say 927, okay? And I hate to tell you, but you need to know that number. And you need to know how many you support as IT departments, how many are vendor supported, how many are individual business supported, how they're assigned, who the owner is. Who all went through Win 7 rollout here recently? Did we do a better job at it? I'm not asking about PDS. Did we as IT people learn anything when we finally got onto Windows XP back in 2002 when we rolled out 2000? Or did you find yourself actually in a lot of the same problems that you had when you rolled out the OS the last time around? Oh, crap. We got to figure out these applications. Who's using this? Who's the owner of that app? What version is going to work? Can we test it? What's the compatibility of it? It all starts in knowing exactly what you have, who owns it, what version you're on, and how it's going to be maintained and delivered. Asset management tools need to be integrated. Okay? Your service desk, hey, they got an asset management component. Your systems management tool, SCCM, Altiris, yeah, there's an asset management component there. Your financial system, yeah, there's an asset component there. All of this information is important in making decisions about how you're going to manage these devices in your environment. 10:23. What do I have until 10:35? I think I'm doing okay. This thing has always been key for us as an organization in working with larger organizations, especially in healthcare. Location, location, location. It is so incredibly important in an asset management system, okay? And here's the problem with it. Technology right now can't solve this problem for us because RFID doesn't work everywhere. There's a lot of infrastructure to put into place to make it work the way you want to do it. And so more often than not, we're at the mercy of our individual technicians, people working to fill out a form that says, I put this on this floor, okay, in this cube, or in this office, in there. And you know what? I was a tech once. I hate filling out forms. We all do, okay? So, but the other thing too is the importance of normalizing location information. Now, whether you do it, ServiceNow is coming out with a cool mapping feature that they have. I haven't played with it myself yet. At the very least, if you don't implement that, you need to normalize location data, okay? I have a funny story associated with this. We were working with a client down in Kansas City, and we were helping them through actually kind of planning out asset management and lifecycle management, stuff like that, and doing a little assessment. And we were in this discussion talking about location information when the lunch guy showed up. I had ordered lunch to be delivered. Phone rings. It's North Kansas City Hospital. It's a big facility. He says, I'm out by the front entrance. I go out by the front entrance. Where are you? I'm talking to him. Well, I'm right there. I'm right by the door. I'm like, I don't see you. And he's like, well, what front entrance are you at? I'm at the one where the lobby is. He's like, oh, well, I think I'm at the one that used to be the entrance. So anyone who's in healthcare, or heck, if you've just been in a hospital visiting someone, what's the reception desk? What's the front desk? What's the lobby? All these things are different. Normalized information is very key if you ever want to be able to really be able to scale and do things by using partners like us, because Johnny, who's the one that knows that particular facility and area and business unit, is not always going to be available. Got to optimize the way the devices are managed, okay? So often we have seen a disconnect between the desktop engineering team or the systems management team, whatever you want to call them, a disconnect between that and the actual desktop team, the people that are actually supporting the devices. We've been in organizations where we start talking to them going, okay, all right, so how do you guys do, these types of fixes? How are you deploying an image? Well, we use Ghost. And then the SCCM guys goes, why? Hey, I got it all set up to do this. And they're not talking to each other, often because the systems engineering team or the desktop engineering team, they're in a different area, or they have different priorities. Their priorities are patching and virus management and stuff like that. So it's all, as it relates to the stuff I'm curious about and interested in from a deployment standpoint is OS and application delivery. Again, people have been telling me since 1998 that I'm going to be out of a job, but we're still out there deploying operating systems and applications within that, and so on and so forth. There may come a day, okay, when we don't need to do the old traditional configuration management on PCs, but it's not today. We can't completely get rid of it now, and therefore we can't think that we're going to change something and I don't have to worry about it tomorrow, okay? It's something that we have to deal with, and it's something that has to get organized. Oh, you guys are going to hate hearing this. Policies, processes, service levels. You know what? IT people, by our very nature, we are problem solvers, which is a good thing, okay? That's how we innovate. We go, we see a problem, we use technology, and we innovate. Problem solving is inherently reactive, okay? You address a problem when it happens. Whereas process management is more about being proactive and about establishing systematic ways of doing things. Again, a problem solver will look at something and look at it as an individual thing, unless you're talking about overall problem management in the idle definition and everything like that, okay? But you look at that individual thing, and I'm going to take care of that one thing, as opposed to thinking about if I got to do this once, what if I had to do it 1,000 times? It's very difficult for someone in the initial mindset to switch over to the other. Whereas, I come from a manufacturing background myself, so the mindset there is a little bit different because you're thinking, all right, great, I got to do this on one, but what I really want to figure out is how I can most efficiently do it on 10,000. And it lends itself to talking about very specific processes. This is where it gets really into sales mode, okay? I mean, anyone who knows us know that we help do these things. You have to have a dialed-in way of fulfillment, okay? There is a lot, when we talk about larger organizations, a lot of handling. Whether it's handling of requisitions and approvals and POs, Mary Kay, whether it is handling of product, there's a lot of transactional business. And a great way that you can actually, streamline things is by focusing on the entire fulfillment process. Everything all the way from requisition, all the way to implementation. The deployment activity needs to be systemized, okay? So many organizations that we go into, we talk to them, it's like, how does this guy deploy? This guy deploys different than that person, than that person, than that person. They use different processes, different methodologies. They even like using different tools. Well, I'm more familiar with this, so I'd rather do that to do profile migration than to use this other one. From a management standpoint, this again goes back to things that we were talking about streamlining OS and application delivery and bringing all of that together into overall systems management. This stuff needs to be systemized and documented. Support and retirement as well. As you guys can see, this is the blatant sales pitch. IT people hate doing this stuff. We love doing it, okay? We are all about establishing systematic processes on these things so that you guys don't have to worry about it. So, yeah, here's the pitch. Act strategic, outsource tactical. Choose a different word if you want. Partner, smart source. What was the one? 5 minutes. Thank you, Dave. The important thing here is if you're not interested or you're not good at something or it's not strategic to you, you really shouldn't be doing it, okay? Because every minute that you spend worrying about it or figuring out, well, no, I know I can get this dialed. I know I can get this dialed. You're not being strategic. And so often we've been doing this with clients for years. You gotta act strategically. Okay, great, awesome, I'm gonna act strategically. We talk about this at the conference, we're gonna act strategically, and then what do? We go back home and we do stuff just like we've been doing them before, okay? And how do I know this? Because right now I know that I am not, in my team, we're not managing all of your desktop infrastructure. If we were doing that, then we probably wouldn't be sitting here because in my mind, you can't act strategically while you're working tactically. It's something that, you gotta move off those workloads so that you can dive into the other stuff and change the way that you're doing things. This little story here, I might be about 3 minutes over there, Dave, just so you know. My sister, when she lived up in the cities, had a housekeeper for a while. And we came up and we're gonna go on a trip and spend the weekend. And the first night we wanted to go out to a movie. And she said, well, I can't go out to a movie, I gotta clean the house. The housekeeper's coming tomorrow. And I found that incredibly funny. I'm like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Why are you gonna clean the house for the housekeeper? And, the more, when she answered it, it made more sense to me, but the more I've been thinking about stuff like this, it makes so much incredible sense. The housekeeper has specific duties, SLAs, if you will. She's going to dust, she's going to vacuum, she's going to do this, she's going to do that. She's not going to clean up all the dirty dishes in the kitchen. She's not going to pick up toys off the floor. She's not going to pick up blankets off the couch. That is not housekeeping because it's not predictable, repeatable activities that You can just say, this is how much my price is for that activity, okay? In the end, from an IT standpoint, you do need to get your house in order if you want to successfully outsource, okay? Managed service organizations, there's a common phrase that I heard recently that I'm happy I heard it, is we don't want your mess for less, okay? If things are in disarray, chaotic, and stuff like that right now for you, there's no way that we as an outsourced organization would be able to manage it. Okay? That's why I was going through all that stuff earlier. You really do need to get organized and or work with an organization like us to help you get organized. All right, where the heck am I in this presentation? Benefits. All right. You know what? I'll save one story. And Lisa, because I didn't actually get full permission or anything like that, I took out your logo. All right? But I like it. It's a great story. Can I reference you? Okay. So for Freighter right now, this is awesome, fun project. We're going to be rolling out 4,000, 4,500, 24-inch monitors, right? And we're rolling them out to all of the physician access devices, okay? Key thing there, physician access devices. Those devices are fulfilling a specific role. Do you know all of the devices in your organization and have it documented and have it in your asset system which ones are physician access or not? I don't know. So all of the devices that are physician access, we're rolling out 24-inch monitors. Why? Well, because they did a study internally that showed that the physicians, if they can reduce the amount of scrolling that they're doing to see the screen in Epic, you guys will help me out on this one, right? It was something, and this is what I heard, I don't know if this is validated, that each physician would be able to see 1 or 2 more patients per day in the amount of time that they'd be able to save in just screen scrolling, okay? So rather than thinking about, well, oh my gosh, we got to cut money from our budget this year, so, we're definitely not going to refresh and we're not going to spend any money on monitors. There's an investment there that is going in that is really, really going to help the bottom line. And it's not just about making physicians more productive. The more productive they are, the more accessible they are. So there's really a component there of what the patient, the actual, customer is going to experience. And that is a simple little thing. You know what? It doesn't need to be some major technological shift. Okay, you don't need to be Epic. Oh, I can't improve a workflow because I'm not, writing the software. I can't improve a workflow. I'm just a desktop guy. I can't improve a workflow. All I do is fix printers. That's not true. Every little opportunity out there is there when you talk to someone saying, what could we do to just make your job just this much easier? 5 minutes a week. What could we do? The possibilities are endless. And I think that's it. Any questions? Well, I didn't have some rousing sort of thing at the end, and I told you already I don't have any magic tricks. I kind of like being up on stage here, even though I have no talent whatsoever. But thank you, everybody, for coming, and have a good day.